Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. Yeah, I'm going to do something going around the VC here about show your best top 10 American bands. So I got 10 records over here we can look at, and I've got 10, and then I've got a couple honorable mentions, of course. So first of all, Boston. They've got to be one of the top 10 American bands. And this is a very nice Friday Music reissue. It's on a gatefold cover. This is really nice. This is something I think they made. I don't think it ever came out on a gatefold cover. And now this Friday Music reissue, I had for years and years, I had the CBS Half Speed Master Sound record. And that had a lot of fidelity on it, but it always had, the high end was irritating. It was bright sounding. And I didn't like the brightness of that record. Didn't like it at all. So I purchased a original press out of Japan. I got that in. This is around 2010. This is the same year this record came out. I got that about 2010. And I compared it to the Half Speed. And yeah, the Japanese one was a lot better. It cleaned up all that brightness out of the high end. It actually dug a little bit deeper in the bass. And overall was just a better made record, better recording. And so then I got this one. It wasn't that long after, probably just only a few weeks after I bought that, this came out. And I was having a lot of luck with those Friday Music records because Kevin Gray was helping Joe Ragosa over there, and they were making some really good records of some of my favorite stuff, records that had never been given any kind of audiophile treatment in the past. And so when this one came out, I purchased it, and I thought this was the equal of the Japanese original, but in every aspect except for the very, very low bass. I thought this had maybe a little bit better, more bass on it than the Japanese press, so I kept this one. Of course, it's on a gatefold and all that stuff. I like that. Next of all, if you've been watching my channel and all, I really like Blue Oyster Cult. They are an American band. They're out of New York. And this is a Japanese original press. And it's got on here what you call a cap OB. Normally the cap would sit on the top. But this is oriented to go on the side. A lot of times the OB will be a sash that runs around the front and the back of the record where you can just slide it off. You don't see the cap OB as much, and that's why I wanted to talk about that. Also, this is a fantastic sounding record right here. And just to show you what goes on these early Japanese records like this, this is the label that all the CBS Sony records all came on that label. It didn't matter what the band was, that was their label at the time. Like any record company had a label, that was your CBS Sony label. And also, I had the Canadian original of this, and I don't think it had any. It came in a paper bag, basically. This one has a big, I think like the American copy, had an inner sleeve like this. And the Japanese version is big, thick paper on here. Really, really nice, high quality product. Then, of course, you get the Japanese lyric sheet that comes in all their records. And then you got another thing in here that I don't remember ever seeing before. It's another insert. That's very cool as well. And like I said, when I bought this brand new in Canada, all it came with was a paper inner sleeve, as far as I remember. But I do think the American one had that inner sleeve in it. I do think that's the way it worked out. You know what? We can find out. I'm going to have a look. I haven't looked in this record, and I don't know for sure, so we can find out. So this is your Japanese press, the OG of it. And then I've got, let's have a look at it. I've got the OG American. And the reason I wanted to show this is because, yeah, it's still in the shrink with the hype sticker. You don't see that every day. This record with the hype seed and the shrink. This is a rare record right here. That part makes it even more rare. And yeah, here it is. Here's your American version with the sleeve in it. The paper's still nice, but it's not as thick as the Japanese. The material's not quite as nice. And then that's it. That's all you get. But now the labels are different in the United States. This is the red and the black. This is kind of the theme of the record, right? One side the label's black, red, pardon me, and the other side the label's black. That is missing off of the Japanese pressing. And I think in Canada, it just came on the Columbia label. It didn't have the red and the black label like that. It just had Columbia on it. If I can get this back in here. Sorry, Vinyl Richie. I know you hate when I do all this stuff to put the stuff back together. I don't like it either, but sometimes these things get fussy. All right. That's the end of that. And then we get to the audiophile one. Yeah. We get to the Speaker's Corner. And I actually have another Tyranny and Mutation. That's the name of this record. It's a Holland pressing. And so I've got 4 records that I can compare to, and that's when I did the shootout here. I did a shootout video about this a while back. And the thing that surprised me the most was how good the original press, the American original pressing sounded, how good that Japanese sounded compared to this, and of course how good that Holland pressing. All those records, they sound really good. And what I did notice, the thing that really impressed me the most about, because I also have another Blue Oyster Cult record, Secret Treaties, on the Speaker's Corner as well, and listening to both of the records, it was the organ that really stood out. Because on all the other records, you don't even really hear the organ. It's not on the record, or if it is, it's really, really faint. And so it's not drawing any attention to itself. So a lot of times you don't even hear it. There's the guitars and the drumming and all that stuff is so much to the forefront. That's what you're hearing. But on this one now, I'm hearing the organ loud and clear on a lot of them. And if I'm hearing that, of course, I'm hearing all the other instruments with more detail and more separation, more clarity. So yeah, this Speaker's Corner, it's very good. Got the audiophile treatment for my Blue Oyster Cult. So happy. And they are definitely one of the top 10 American bands out there. And I was thinking about this here before I did the video, because one of the things I really value personally is a guitar player. That's what I love. I love guitar, it's really talented guitar players. And that's kind of a theme through all of this, right? Boston's got some good guitar players. Blue Oyster Cult, they're all phenomenal guitar players. But we kind of deviate a little bit. Alice Cooper, they play some, they got good guitar players too, but it's more Alice's, his singing, his songwriting, the whole kind of, his vibe that he's got, the titles of the songs, you know, School's Out, and all that stuff when you're a kid, all that stuff's great. I'm 18, when I was 18, the song's on the radio. It's really endearing to you, and that stuff is really current. The music on the radio is current to where you're at in your life. So this, I think, probably is one of my favorite Alice Cooper records. Love it to death, and I do love this record to death, of course. Now this one, particular one, is a Japanese original pressing, and it's on the gatefold cover. And look at how beautiful this record is. Over 50 years old, and look at the quality of the record. Look at how it has stood the test of time. Just the quality of the materials they're using. They're trying to make the best stuff they can, and they really do. And yeah, it's on the Green Warner Brother label. That's your OG press. And this record has never had any kind of audiophile treatment to it. And but this record now, compared to what I had before, the original, this sounds like Chad Kassem got the original tape, sent it over to, Kevin Gray, and they redid it. It just sounded so much better. A lot of all those audiophile qualities you're looking for, it's on this record. Very, very, so happy with this record. And of course, I didn't pay a lot for it, even though it is one of those super rare original records out of Japan. It's really hard to get, but it doesn't have the OB on it. So I got it for a reasonable price, and then I bought it because of that. And I think I bought it from was a private seller out of Japan that I had. He had a little kind of a web store I would go to, and I bought it through him. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about Alice Cooper, because this $1 Billion Babies now, this did get the audiophile treatment. This is a Warner Brother Rhino that Kevin Gray remastered. I think it was Kevin Gray. Anyway, phenomenal sounding record. It got the royal treatment. I mean, it's got the rounded corners, the snake skin. It's got the perforated pictures where you can take out. It's got the dollar bill. It's got everything on there. And they even have the OG bag, with the Rhino on it. I keep it in here. And the record sounds, I mean, I have had a number of these records. I've had the originals with the panties. I've had the OG out of Japan. I've had a lot of them, trying to find a super great record. And this Warner Brother Rhino, that's been remastered over at Acoustic and pressed at RTI, and the cover, it's just the best ever product. It's just better press of this record is never. This is the best ever, the best one ever made. Took a while to get it out, but I did finally, folks. And then we have Muscle of Love. This is the one that's in the box. This is your first edition. Friday Music reissued this, and it didn't sound anywhere near as good as this one. This original Warner Brother, that's another one of those Friday Music ones that failed. This one in the box, folks. That's the best one that I could ever find. Okay, we got a few things to talk about this record. This is your, Creedence Clearwater Revival. This is Cosmo's Factory, of course. I bought this record when I was 15 years old, when it came out in 1970. And I've loved this record right from day one. It's got a lot of great hits on the record, of course. A lot of you folks know this record. I don't have to explain all that to you. But somewhere in the 80s or so, 90s maybe, early 90s, I come across the Mobile Fidelity Half-Speed Master. And that was a step up from the OG pressing. Back in the 80s, 90s, half-speed mastering was what the technology of the day was to get an audiophile sounding record. This is what the technology was. Stan Ricker came up with that, and that's what he did over at MoFi, and made some really, really good sounding records. And then I got this one. It was, this is the Analog Productions record, and this one bettered the MoFi. This is how good these records are coming out now. This is 2016, I think, something like that, maybe even newer. This is how good they're making records now at Acoustic Sounds. Very, very good. And I was thinking about something when I looked at this record, that I said I had the MoFi and I had this one. And at the same time, I had a Friday Music record that was Moody Blues, A Question of Balance. Then I had the original Canadian press, and I had a Japanese original. And the reason I got the Japanese original was because when I listened to the Friday Music reissue, when I listened to the Friday Music record, I said, it's better than the original, but I can hear in the voice, it doesn't sound the way I know it can sound. That is not as natural. It's not as realistic as I know a lot of these, like this one on here is. So the only thing out there that's like an audiophile version of the record, you could possibly go to the UK and try to find one, the original press out in the UK. But my problem with the UK is they overgrade their records so bad. and you get the thing and it's all full of scratches and you've overpaid for the record and now to send it back it costs $15. So you get tired of that real quick. And I've had really good luck with my records out of Japan. So I bought the record out of Japan, and yes, there it was. The voice, crystal clear, sounded like he was in the room. I could hear the flesh in the voice. So that Japanese record was better than the Friday Music record. So another one of those records was good, but it wasn't as good as some of the other Friday Music records when Kevin Gray is involved, right? So there was a fella did a live stream here a couple of days back, and he had 3 folks from the VC on his panel, and he posed a question. Now these 3 fellas on the panel, they're not known for doing comparison videos like I am. I mean, that's what I do. I do a lot of record comparison. I've been doing it for years. And these folks that's not really their thing. They do different stuff. Every week they're doing it, have a different type of program that they do. But he asked them the question anyway. Going forward, when we do comparison videos, should they be blind testing? Like, because people have a bias. When you see one record, you know what's on there. And maybe you want that one to sound better, so you're going to use your emotion is going to overcome your brain or something. I don't know what the point he's trying to make, but he said the only way to do a test is with blind testing. So what I wanted to do now, I wanted to tell you what I did here, because when I bought this record, I think it was the video I made before, somebody asked me, hey Ron, what about this blind testing? Can you do some of that and report on what happened? So I had this record, I had the MoFi, and I had those 3 Moody Blue records that I had. And I had all 5. And I had my son come in and I said, now listen, I want you to put the records on. I don't want to know which one you're putting on. So I'll just turn my head when you put it on, just in case I see the label or something, I'll know exactly what it is. I don't want to know what it is. And I said, now, put them on randomly. Put the same one on twice in a row if you want. I just want it all mixed up. I really don't want to be able to tell what it could be, right? So we did the whole thing. Took, I don't know, half an hour or something we did it for. Every single time I was able to guess 100% what the record was. Because once you get used to the way the record sounds, right, it's not hard to know which one it is. You get to learn the style. You get to learn what's on the record. You get to learn the way it sounds. So if you just use your ears to do evaluation and not your eyeballs, it's not really hard. And another thing, when I do my evaluation, when I do my comparison video, a lot of you folks out there that watch my channel, you've already had the record before I did. Or maybe we got it at the same time, but I've taken a week or so to come up with what I think, figured out what I can talk about the record, the strengths and weaknesses type thing. And you all agree with me. You say, Ron, I've got the same records and I agree 100% exactly what you're hearing, that's what I'm hearing. Because it's not rocket science, right? If your system is revealing enough to show what the differences are, you're going to be able to hear it. It's not a mystery, right? This is not hard to do. So that whole blind idea, okay, it could be a good thing, but how am I supposed to do blind testing in the first place? I don't have people to come in and put records on and put a blindfold on me and do all that. I've already done it, and I've demonstrated that I can tell the difference on the records. I don't have to do blind testing. Just let your ears do it. And like I said, everybody else that listens to the record, they can come up with the same conclusions, right? And I'm making the video and I'm just, verifying what they're hearing. This is why they watch it. And plus, a lot of times, people that haven't purchased the record, and this one costs a lot of money versus what they got, and if I say, you know what, don't buy that. That Friday Music one, it sucks. Don't buy it. That's what people want to find out. That's why they're watching the video in the first place. Speaker's Corner again. The Doobie Brothers. Now this is a fantastic record right here. The first, I think it's 3 or 4 Doobie Brothers records. You got a guy called Tom Johnson. He was the guitar player. He was fantastic guitar player. Just like I said, I like guitar players. And he passes away. Doobie Brothers become more of a piano singer-songwriter kind of group. And they're still very, very popular. They sell millions of records. But this is the Doobie Brothers that I love. And I think that they deserve to be one of the top 10 American bands out there. And again, this is another case where I bought the Friday Music record of this. I got the Friday Music. I had a second edition Japanese pressing. I played them both and I said, that Japanese one is better than this Friday Music one. And so I said, I'd let everybody know, yeah, that Friday Music, the Captain and me, it's a dud. Don't buy it. And I said, well, if that reissue is better, whoa, I need to get the first edition. So I sold my reissue and I went to Japan and I went on eBay and I bought a original out of Japan. And it was a lot better than the reissue, as I've said before. But then when I got this, kind of a funny story again. I did a comparison of the Japanese original to this record, right? And I'm thinking, how come I'm hearing more information on the Japanese record? What's going on here? And I also am noticing the run-out groove is a lot smaller on the Japanese press than it is on this one. The run-out groove is a lot bigger. So I also, when I did the review of this record, I did a deep dive into Kevin Gray, and we talked a lot about Kevin Gray, his career, and how the Japanese are cutting their records hotter. That's why their run-out grooves are smaller. They're cutting a little bit hotter, kind of trying to do a Robert Ludwig kind of a cut. This is kind of one way they get a little more fidelity on their records. But when they're cut a little hotter, they're a little bit louder as well. So I got my meter out and I set the level the same. At a certain part of the record when I'm listening, I want to know at that exact point what exactly it's saying on that meter. And of course I'm doing the average, but I want to know exactly what it is so I can compare them, get them really close. And once I leveled that up, and also being that my Martin Logans, they need a lot of power. There's a certain point where they come alive, and if you're below that, you're not getting the detail out of it. So I think I was a little bit below the threshold of that point. So once I matched the level and this record became the same loudness as the Japanese pressing, yeah, this one was better. By quite a bit of things turned out to be better once I started hearing this at the same level, which is another important thing to do when you compare records. You want to make sure the levels are the same because the louder one will usually sound better. The Doors. There's L.A. Woman. The Doors got to be top 10 of all time American bands. If you don't have this one in your, I don't know what you're putting in there. I'd have to question the whole video. Anyway, it's just a matter of opinion. And opinions are kind of like, music's kind of like an opinion. Everybody's got a different one. You're not right, you're not wrong, it's just a different thing. And so here's The Doors. This is the Acoustic Sounds 2 LP, 45 RPM, Stoughton jacket, beautiful, glossy gatefold. And so I just got new speakers last week. So this is one of the first records we put on. And I hadn't listened to this. It's probably been a year or two since I heard the record. We put it on. And I'm like, this is, of course, we put on Riders on the Storm. Put Riders on the Storm on first. And I'm listening to it. And I'm thinking, man, oh man, this is like the perfect song of all time. There's just so much stuff in this song. It's just beautiful. It's just a great song. I just thinking this is one of the greatest songs of all time. How good it's, and I'm thinking, wow. Listen to the fidelity on that. That's a 50-year-old record. 50-year-old tape, whatever. That's old. They're recording that with 50-year-old or 60, 70-year-old equipment, right? When they recorded that record. And this is Doug Sax now at the mastering lab. He's using all tube stuff. And at this point, Doug's stuff's pretty old already. But the information that Doug was able to get out of that tape and make this sound amazing. I was just blown away. I said, man, I forgot how good this record sounds. Amazing. And I know about everybody's got this out there. It watches my channel, and you know what I'm talking about, folks. Here's another band, right? They even got a song that says they're an American band. And what American bands do? Well, they come to your town and they help you party down. That's what American bands do. So I think a lot of these records, that's the kind of bands they are. They'll come to your town and they'll party down with you. That's what they do. This is, of course, a Japanese original press. And you can see I'll move the record. Look at how shiny it is. The American original was never this nice. And I know because I was probably 14, 15 again. I was on my bike. I drove down to Ben Franklin on my bicycle. I bought the record for $3.99 when it came out. It didn't have all this shiny gloss to it. This is what the Japanese got when they got the record. This is the original press here. On the gatefold jacket. Very, very nice. And again, this is one of those records that it sounds like it's been remastered by Kevin Gray. The sound on it, phenomenal compared to my original American pressing that I had. Here's another good guitar player, right? This is what I like in a band. This Jimi Hendrix Experience. Yeah, this guy Jimi Hendrix, he could play the guitar. And a lot of people argue he is the best ever guitar player, right? They would. And this Axis Bold of Love now is one of my favorite Jimi Hendrix records. So when it came along on this format, I had to get a hold of it. I think this was the first one that Chad did in this format. So it's a really good sounding record. I have a lot of classic records that did some Jimi Hendrix stuff too. And they're kind of comparable. When you start getting in the audiophile domain, those old tapes, you can only do so much. This is great sounding, and a lot of that classic record stuff was pretty good too. But what I want to talk about now is how, I think it's been 10 years or so now, the family, the Jimi Hendrix estate, has got the rights to all of the music. They were fighting for years and years over this stuff. The record company said they owned the rights to his material, and the family said, no, it's ours. And finally, the court decided, yes, it's the family's. They went to Acoustic Sounds. They went to Chad, and they said, we want you to be in charge of getting all the stuff, making a bunch of new records. We're going to make a bunch of new stuff. Get all those tapes. And so they put out probably 5 records now, 5 or 6 records. They're all double LPs. They all include a whole bunch of different songs that we've never heard, and a lot of those songs are better than songs on here. Of course, some of the songs are the same. But some songs on here are on those records, but there's a lot of new stuff. And the sound, yeah, you're getting Analog Productions quality. All the stuff sounds so good on those records that Chad's making over there. So if you haven't bought any of those, and they're not overly priced. For really good value, those records are. Santana, Carlos Santana, another really good guitar player. He's got to be one of the top 10 guitar players America ever produced, right? So I think, now this record in particular, now, I don't know if Carlos Santana was born in Mexico or not, but I know that they were an American band when they came out. So anyway, this record now, this MoFi, it's on a 2LP, 45 RPM. They put it on a beautiful gatefold. This record is one of those records that got the magic on it, right? It's one of those records gives you goosebumps, gets the hair going up on the back of your neck. They just did a phenomenal job on this. And I don't know if it's a digital or analog or whatever it is, but I just know it sounds fantastic. And it was out of print for a long time. It just came in print again, I think last month or so. So you can buy these again. I think they're $60. It's one of the best sounding records in my collection. Phenomenal record. Santana. It's got to be up there. 10 top bands. And I didn't do any research. I don't even know if they're considered an American band. If they are, they're in there. If they're not, well, then take it out. Steely Dan. Yeah, they're top 10 for me all the way. The guitars on these records are so fantastic. The singer, the songwriting, the keyboard playing, all that stuff. Fantastic. Now, the reason I have this record, you know, because they're coming out with all the UHQRs now, because they had never done an audiophile or even hardly any represses of their records, right? They were always kind of hard to get. I think it was Pretzel Logic that MoFi did I never did get that MoFi, but there is that one record of the Steely Dan. And I think they did Asia too, right? Asia was done, and MoFi did an Asia of that. But, so I decided here, it's probably 8-9 years ago, somewhere in there, they reissued all the David Bowie records, his whole catalog. And Michael Fremer reviewed it, and he said, these are all digital records, and they sound like digital records. They're not that good. And so I said, okay. Then they did Roxy Music. It was the same thing. He said, these are digital records. You can hear digital in it. And I wish they would do a better job of reissuing these records when the big labels are doing it now. So at that point, I said, well, you know what? I like analog records. I'm just going to go to Japan and find the Japanese originals of all my David Bowie records I like, of all the Roxy Music, and I'm going to get all the Steely Dan like that. And so that's what I did. And this is the first one, Steely Dan record. This is Can't Buy a Thrill. This is a Speaker's Corner record. And David Bianco did a review where he did a comparison video where he's comparing the UHQR to this and a couple of other records that he had. And he said that the UHQR sounded by far the best. That this one, in comparison to the UHQR, it was lacking in a lot of different things. And so I said, well, I haven't played that for a while. Let me put it on my stereo and see what it sounds like. Oh my God, this thing, what a fantastic sounding record. I could not believe how great it sounded. And I'm thinking, well, David, I know you're right. The other one sounds better. But do I need to spend $150 to get that betterness on this one? I think I'm good. I think I'm good on this. It's not a record I play a lot anyway, right? So you get to a point in record collecting where, do I need to spend $150 to buy a record that I'm not going to listen to, like a lot of these other records that I have that I hardly ever listen to? Once you get too many records, you can't listen to them all, right? It's hard to do. So you get a little bit more fussy. And this sounds fantastic. And again, if I really wanted the UHQR, I could buy it and I could sell this. I could probably get $100 for this record because they want stupid money for this now. I bought it when it was it's probably $29, I think. And that's the top 10. Not that these aren't the top 10. These are, some extra ones I've thrown in there, right? The honorable mentions. They could have just as well been a top 10 because I love them just as much. Again, we got some good old guitar players on this record. And this happens to be the Warner Brother Rhino RTI remastered at Acoustic, Kevin Gray, Stoughton jacket. This thing, I had a black London Canadian press of this record. This thing destroyed it. These things are glorious, how these records sound. If you love ZZ Top, if you look hard enough, you can find them. I think they're like $100 nowadays, but these things are so good. And they put out 4 of them. Rhino redid 4 of them. I've got all 4 of them. They're fantastic sounding records. Especially that Deguelo. That is phenomenal sounding. Stevie Wonder. Yeah, he's one of the top 10 American bands out there. Singer-songwriters. This is a nice, big, thick, textured cover. This is a Japan pressing on the gatefold. show you the label, because for me this is a little different than what I've ever been seen before. That Motown like that. You know, I've seen like a dark blue and a light blue Motown, but then it was never like that. This is the way I got it here. This is a beautiful record. And this record, you know, it's got Too High, Visions, Loving for the City, Living for the City, Higher Ground, Jesus, Children of America, Don't You Worry About a Thing. It's like hit after hit on here. This is a great record. And that one song, Too High, on side one, first song, they've got the cymbal mic'd up on that record. This is audiophile stuff here, folks. I don't think there's another record ever made that has the cymbal with that much detail on it. It's startling how good that cymbal sounds when he starts hitting on that cymbal. It's fantastic. Makes me want to put it on right now and listen to it. Johnny Winter. Yeah, he's a pretty good guitar player. I wonder how he got on the list. This is still in Live and Well. This is another Friday Music reissue that they put on the gatefold. The one I had, the Columbia one, never was a gatefold that I had. This is fantastic sounding record. Friday Music did a good job on this one. Really happy with this record. Johnny Winter. His brother Edgar's pretty good too, by the way. Yeah. Then we got this band called Nirvana. There's a lot of folks like their records. They have a lot of really good records. This is your ORG pressing. This is a audiophile version of the original. I had the original and that sounded really good. I think this one sounds better. Really good record. Nirvana. They got to be on the list. Alice in Chains. Music on Vinyl. This is the MTV Unplugged. This is a 2LP. Every song on here is fantastic. And the way that this recorded with this Unplugged, it's like You Are There record. It's high fidelity all the way. Can't recommend it enough. Alice in Chains. Morphine. I love these guys. You know, Mark Sandman, and I don't remember the trumpet player. I mean the saxophone player and the drummer. It's a three-piece group. Now Sandman's a lead singer, and he plays a 3-string slide bass guitar. It's all a different sound altogether from anything that you're used to hearing. And this songwriting is so genius. This guy is fantastic, and it's just so good music. And now we've got it on Run Out Groove, because you know this band is from the 90s, so all that stuff's recorded is all going to be digital. But Run Out Groove takes their stuff to Memphis. They get the OG tape, they take it to Memphis, and in that studio they have an all analog system, and they run it through that all analog system to make the lacquer, and they get rid of a lot of the artifacts and stuff. I don't hear, this is a hi-fi record right here. Run Out Groove makes fantastic records. I can't say enough good stuff about Run Out Groove. And I love the band. And, you know, I've digitized a lot of this stuff and put it on my phone. And my daughter has a mixtape. When I go up there, it's like Dad's mixtape and on her Spotify. And then there's a lot of Morphine on that. When I go up there, yeah, she knows what I like. She's got it on the mixtape. Here's another guitar player. What a coincidence. Yeah, he's pretty good too, right? Stevie Ray Vaughan's got to be up there in the top 3 if you're going to talk about the best guitar players. And he's got a lot of great records, as we all know. Stevie Ray Vaughan, he's on the list. Now we got a VC favorite, Van Halen. He's another great guitar player. He's got to be on the list. And this is your Warner Brother Rhino, remastered at acoustic by Kevin Gray, pressed at RTI with the Stoughton jacket and the whole 9 yards. What a fantastic package. What a great record. And Van Halen, yeah, they like to help you party down too. They're one of those bands. They're an American band. Right, Melinda? They're great. Talking Heads, another great American band. When this record came out, Burning Down the House. What is that? I have to own it. Went and picked up the record at the record store. and I made a tape of it, a cassette tape, and I played it in the car every day over and over and over again. I got to know every song by heart, everything, and loved the whole record. It's a fantastic record. Okay, we have the Eagles. There's a lot of folks say the Eagles are one of the top 10 American bands out there. And I just bought this like last week. Again, David Bianco, he did a shootout because MoFi's put a one-step of this out. So he does the shootout, and he's got this record to compare it to. This is the Kevin Gray Warner Brother Rhino remaster. It's got the big gatefold, the big Stoughton jacket. Beautiful record, nice big thick cover. And when he did a shootout, he said, you know, I can't believe how good this record is compared to the one step. This is about like 97% of the way there. There's not a lot lacking on this record compared to the one step. So I said, well, you know what? I don't even have this record. Let me go on eBay. And I found one. It was on a bid. I set my timer. I went back. I got it for 35 bucks. So now I have the record. And I should put a link to David Bianco's channel down below. So when the video gets done, go look at the link for David's channel and go subscribe to him. He's doing the most comparison videos of anybody in the VC right now. He took a subscription to the 75th anniversary record, so he's getting every single one of them. He buys all the one steps. He buys all the, the UHQRs. He's really committed to doing all the comparison videos. So if that's something you like, I'm going to leave the link over there and subscribe to his channel. And the last record, I know we've been waiting on this one, the last one, getting to be a little bit of a long video. I hope you're all enjoying it. This is Frank Zappa, and I think there's a lot of folks, again, one of the top probably 5 guitar players of the time, of our day, let's say. He's so good. And I probably bought every Frank Zappa record that was ever produced. And then as I got older, I kind of got to where that stuff from the 60s, I just more or less fell in love with the stuff in the early 70s. That's really where I like the Frank Zappa, his style at that point. And this is a compilation. It's a box with 3 records in it. And the name of the record is Shut Up and Play Your Guitar. All it is guitar solos from all the different records and live records and all the different stuff that's up to this point. And I think if they have the year on here, I don't see it. 81. This came out in 81. So all the stuff that he had done up to 81, they took excerpts off those and they made this record. I have another record. It's called Frank Zappa Guitar. It's a 2 LP. And that's even later. That's probably around 1990 that came out. And again, it's got all these guitar solos on it. So I love the guitar. And I love the old Frank Zappa, Apostrophe, Overnight Sensation. Those are the ones I go to when I want to play the records most of the time. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.